Hey, and welcome to the Dogtor Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Adam. I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I am here with my closest friends from vet school.
Hey, this is Chris. I'm a GP in North Carolina.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm a dermatology associate veterinarian out in Louisville, Kentucky.
And again, this is Adam, and I am a relief veterinarian in Louisville, Kentucky. And today we are joined again by a good friend of mine, Dr. Teresa Kho. Dr. Kho was born in Hawaii, grew up in California, completed her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine with Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine in the Caribbean, and has since lived in Indiana, Florida, Idaho, and finally Kentucky. Louisville is where she calls home now with her husband, young son, 3 dogs, and 2 cats. After many years working as a general practitioner, Dr. Kho now owns and operates a mobile practice exclusive to veterinary acupuncture. So please welcome back Dr. Kho. Thanks for being back on with us.
Thank you for having me.
So to start things out today, we're going to open up with a message from one of our listeners that was sent to us on Instagram. So this comes from @GoTigersDVM from Dr. Ruth Ann Lobos. The letter is in response to episode number 21, the one about parenting with Dr. Ashley Bourgeois. They said, super cool that y'all do this. As a mom of a 9-year-old boy and veterinarian that travels for her role at Purina and has a side hustle in acupuncture and rehabilitation, it's a delicate dance we do to parent and practice/work. Dr. Lobos, thank you so much for your message. If anyone listening would like to reach out to us, we love throwing these features on here from time to time, so maybe you'll get featured. You can reach us on Instagram at @TheDoctor Bros or email us at thedoctorbros@gmail.com. So on today's episode, our topic is alternative careers within vet med. We've touched on this a bit in the past, but being with Dr. Kho today, who has developed her own mobile practice in acupuncture, we thought this would be a good topic to cover with her. So diving in to today's topic, typically when you think about careers in vet med, 2 main options come to mind. Typically, the most traditional paths we see are either into GP or general practice, or taking an alternative approach to specializing. But one thing a lot of people may not realize is that there are a lot of alternative career paths within veterinary medicine. So just for everybody, what are some other career paths that you guys have encountered either with yourself or with other vets that you may know within the field of veterinary medicine?
This is Jeff, and I'll say there's quite a few. So I've got friends who are general practitioners who have transitioned into academia. Like one I can think of is Dr. Gentry, one of our old teachers who I guess she was technically in academia during her large animal internship at Tuskegee, and other careers like obviously Dr. Kho here in acupuncture, urgent care like Dr. Pelfrey, Dr. Kho's husband, who we'll have on at some point. I know people who've gone into government work with your DVM. I think the sky's the limit, honestly.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. I do have my own mobile acupuncture practice, which has taken me out of general practice. But before this, I did some work with Chewy, and I did consulting work for them and some writing for them that I actually still do for PetMD. But I have known people who leave general practice completely and only do freelance writing for veterinary medicine because they just love it so much. But I think when I think of alternative careers, I also think of things like Lap of Love, which didn't Allison do that for a little bit?
Yes, she did.
Which is a hospice and end of life care provider for pets, which I think is a really nice service for people to have. And then some other things that come to mind are like veterinary rehabilitation, which is something that's really growing. And I've known a lot of people to really find their niche in rehab. And then, of course, like like what you did, Adam, with the USDA. But there's also like, you could go into food and drug rep and all kinds of stuff that gets you out of practice if it's not your true passion.
Yeah, and that would fall under things like industry. If you want to work for a big company, there was a time, I know, Chris, you probably remember, like when we were student reps, like those veterinarians over us, they technically work for Purina, but their main job wasn't clinical work. They travel around to other schools. I actually almost applied to one of those jobs before my derm internship and was really like debating making a big shift. And another one I was going to mention is, and this one's broad, but like being an entrepreneur, whether that may be going out and speaking, like I do a little bit of speaking, or like you, Dr. Kho, like you're an entrepreneur in your field and you've turned it into acupuncture, which I think is amazing. And then like Adam, like you're an entrepreneur working at your own, like doing your own relief business, which is just astounding that you're all creating and carving out your own niches and what you want to be doing with your degree.
Yeah, I know we hit a lot of them here. The ones that I was going to mention, like Dr. Kho said, I did work for the USDA for a little while. Research is another big one. A lot of vets have the option to go into research. Dr. Willie that we had on, he's lab animal. So that's another one. So many different career paths, different avenues that people can take within the field. So what are some common ways we can explore non-traditional paths in vet med? So somebody who's looking to maybe make a change, what are some things that they could do to kind of explore their options outside of general practice?
One of the ways that I find out about a lot of this stuff is that when I became pregnant, I was invited into like a DVM's moms group on Facebook, and it's like huge. It's a huge group. I don't know if there's anything like that for dads, or I'm sure there's something for everybody, but
I haven't seen one.
Well,
we'll
maybe you could
Chris.
Head it off. There you go.
Sounds good. There we go.
Now's your chance.
But there's a lot of people who will post on there and say things like, I'm really struggling in general practice. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, what other options are there for me out there? And you would be surprised with the amount of comments and support that these people receive, that, there's so many opportunities out there that you can do if you aren't happy in general practice.
This is Chris for sure. I've seen him. I'm not in the moms group, or I don't even know, like you said, there's no dads group either. But I've seen that in the vet groups that are out there, like other options for jobs. And I've even seen like the side hustles that vets do in the financial groups that we're in for the veterinary side of things. So for sure, I think that's one way. You can also do conferences. I feel like every time I go to a conference, there's always like a million new ideas in my head of like, hey, I can go do this instead or do something else. And that's also how you get to network and meet other people that are doing just different industry type things. I think, like JT was saying before, we definitely were kind of more involved with the industry side of things when we were students. And I think that's a big way, is you just start networking and reaching out to people in different ways to go into vet medicine. And if you don't like GP or you don't like what you're doing, there's other options. Adam's a perfect example too of, hey, switching it up. I'm not happy where I'm at now, so I'm going to do something different and finally find something I'd like to do.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I would say to people, is in terms of branching out, conferences, networking, finding somebody who does the things that you may be interested in, especially now with social media. There doesn't necessarily have to be somebody in your area that does what you're looking to do. You can reach out to somebody online, on Facebook, on Instagram, who's across the country, and ask them questions about something that you may be interested in and wanting to learn more about.
And this is Jeff again. And one that I just thought of, which is actually one of the big reasons I got into dermatology, was doing night dinners, or I guess that that's redundant, but like I remember that I went to like a big industry dinner, like I think it was like Zoetis or something, and speaking to the doctor there, it was like a derm dinner, and in my area they also had like young veterinarian dinners, like new grad dinners, like 1 to 5 years out, and I met people there, networked, and the veterinarian at the dermatology dinner I went to one time was like, hey, you should really get into this, you should do a residency. And that was, I got her email, quote unquote, networked, and then ended up going to the National Derm Conference. That's what got me in the door in that direction.
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice that I have, and I know I personally have mentioned this several times in previous episodes, but if you're not happy with where you're at, be willing to make a change. Dr. Kho is also the perfect example of that from the previous episode where we had her on and she kind of talked about her journey. Just always be willing to step out of your comfort zone and find something that's going to be the best fit for you. And that may not be just one step. You may do one step and that's still not the right place. And you may need to take another step and go somewhere else. But I always encourage people to have that courage to take that first step if they're not in a place that they're happy with. And I'm not even talking about a specific area or a specific clinic, but maybe in GP, in GP in general, I'm not happy doing GP work. Well, then what else do you think you may be interested in? And let's maybe try to make that shift. And then you may make that shift. And again, that may not be your thing either, but I always encourage people to try to take that first step to try to get to a place where they're happiest with their career.
Yeah, I agree with that so much, because I feel like especially when I was working in corporate practices, there were a lot of like new grads or younger vets coming through. And it's so disheartening for me to see, when they come in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you can kind of see that fading away because they're just burning out so quickly. And so that was actually one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you all about this topic, because I feel so passionately about doing the thing that makes you happy and gives you that fulfillment in life, because it's not worth it to do this job if you're not happy and it's bringing you down. And I think a lot of young or newer vets in particular, and this is how I felt too in the beginning, feel kind of stuck and trapped because, we get out of school, we have all this debt and, this is our first job and you feel like obligated to stick with it. And, people say it gets better and, all these things. But I think, if you're not happy doing whatever it is that you're doing, then have that courage, like Adam said, and get out there and try something different, because, what's the worst that can happen? You get a different job. That's it. You move on to the next thing.
Yeah, Kho, I really like what you said. This is Jeff again, because, big important points there. Like, if there's something that you can try reasonably and put a little time and effort into something different or new, whether that means you shave down your schedule, work 1 or 2 days less a week and explore the new thing. You may be in a situation where you have to work your full-time job and explore the other side too, or go on your off day to explore whatever the other option is, or get a new certification. Like when you did the acupuncture, like it's still worth doing those things. I remember telling some of my friends who didn't like their initial jobs. I think Chris, you were on that list. Like, if you just like work, like if your first job is really not gelling with how you practice and your life, and you feel like you need to make adjustments, go out and look for that something that gels more with what will work for you, because it's worth it. And also, if that's outside of general practice, that's okay. That's kind of the package I think we're sold in vet school, kind of across the board, is everybody kind of goes in thinking they're going to do general practice and be a clinician. And I like to tell my friends in general, I'm like, hey, if you need to go do something different, that's okay, because at the very least, GP is not going anywhere. Like if you need to just come back and work a little bit, it'll be there. We will always have need for those veterinarians. So it's okay to try something else.
I think one of the things that I did struggle with when I was thinking about leaving general practice and starting my solely exclusive acupuncture practice is, am I doing myself a disservice by not practicing the medicine that I was trained to do? I have all these years of schooling and all of this really expensive degree that I'm sort of walking away from, but ultimately it wasn't making me happy. And although right now I'm not doing surgery, I'm not doing vaccines, I'm not doing the things that you would do in a general practice situation, I'm still having those same conversations with people and educating people about their pets. And in that way, I'm still able to use that education that I have, to the best that I can. But I do think that that's probably one holdup for people is that, they're worried that they're wasting their degree by going into these different fields. But I would say that, you're definitely not.
Kho, do you miss any of those things from general practice? Are there parts about general practice you miss?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there are things that I do miss. Every now and then I kind of miss like getting my hands in a surgery or something, but not as much as I enjoy not having the stress of surgery.
Good answer.
Yeah. One other thing I'll add is I feel like it's pretty common for new vets coming out of vet school to have their mind made up with what they want to do, whether that be GP or specialize or whatever it is. And I feel like for me, in my mind, that kind of stems from earlier in life where, for me, like I wanted to be a vet since I was, I'm kind of the boring traditional story since I was a kid. So like through high school, my goal is to be a vet. Through college, all these other people have just undetermined degrees. They don't know what they want to do, but I know what I want to do. I want to be a vet. And so you go to vet school, or I'm going to be a vet. And then you go out and you're a vet. And then it kind of felt like, okay, now what? Because you were always building to being a vet. And then I feel like I got there and it was just like, okay, now I'm kind of stuck. And like, maybe I don't love this quite as much as I thought I would. So I'm locked in. Is kind of essentially what it felt like. And I feel like that's pretty common for vets coming out of school, whether they enjoy it or they don't enjoy it as much as they thought. They get locked in with that mindset of like, this is what I'm doing, just because that's what they've always been building towards. But again, I just encourage you to keep that door open. And you don't have to know what you want to do right out of vet school. Because to me, in my mind at that time, like graduating vet school was the top. Like that was the end. Like I'm a vet now. I'm done. Like this is where I wanted to be. But that was just the beginning, really. And there's so many different avenues and so many different doors that opened up because I tried to, once I had that mindset shift, try to open up a little bit and see that there's a lot more opportunity out there. So don't, that's the one thing I'd say for new grads especially is don't limit yourself. Don't see this as I'm a vet and that's it. Like that's the end. Where I go is where I stay. There's plenty of opportunity out there for you to move around and find what's going to make you the happiest.
And this is Jeff. I wanted to add to that. I think I'm really passionate about this topic too, because I feel like there are so many things you can do with a veterinary degree, like the DVM, because you have a doctorate, that's very powerful. And if you wanted to do things, you can think outside the box. Like, what are you good at? What are you good at within this field, even if you're not specialized? And if there's something that you want to do on social media, like because of COVID, things like TikTok and everything blew up, and now there's people making full salaries off of their social media platforms and creating them into LLCs, like, and making YouTube platforms and making money. Unfortunately, this one isn't paid, but there are people who do that. But yeah, you can create your own brand. You can create your own LLC or business, market yourself. So much from going to school. If there's something that you're interested in, I even encourage people to, or I guess things that I've seen that have been successful are people who have even created different types of learning platforms, or I'm very good at this technique, whether it be a surgery or something new in vet med that you've learned, or maybe something that's hard and true and old, whether it be a topic on really anything that you're interested in. Like, obviously, I'm biased towards dermatology, but there's no reason that a general practitioner or anybody can't make a course regarding something that you're interested in. If you do the research and you go and make that really important to you, you could go to all the CEs, you can learn extra on the topics you're interested in and create something and create a brand and market that. So there are online courses that people take. You could offer something client facing education wise as online courses. So don't be afraid to think outside the box. I always get sad when people completely leave the field, but I'm sure that's right for some people. Like, there are people in probably every career who don't want to do what they're doing, and that's okay. But I just think there's so many things you can do with your DVM. Like, don't be afraid to think outside the box before you completely shift gears. Like, use what you got and leverage it.
Yeah, I even know somebody who I did clinics with who started a like travel CE business for vets.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you could do anything with it, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty unique. I would never have even thought to do a travel CE as a vet. Like, that's pretty cool that's what they're doing now. And I'm sure they're doing pretty well with that, because I definitely like to travel if I'm going to CE, to go somewhere cool and not just stay at home and do it on my computer if I can help it.
Yeah, I think even doctors like Dr. Rourke, I think he was big in making like his own conference, or
he did, yeah.
Offering education, and it's like, yeah, like, this is what I want to do. I know I've got something to offer, so why not offer it and turn it into something? It starts small, but make it something big. If it's something you're passionate about, why not?
Yeah.
And
I think the goal of this discussion is just to let people know, like, there's options out there. No matter what you want to do, there's always something for somebody within this field. This field is a lot broader than what it initially appears at first glance. And to our listeners, if there's anything that you do outside of vet med that we didn't touch on today that you feel would be beneficial to share, please reach out to us. Again, our email address and our Instagram is mentioned at the end. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Kho, again for coming on with us. It's been a pleasure having you back on the podcast. Again, is there anywhere where anybody can find you on social medias, email?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. I am on Instagram and Facebook at Aloha Vet Acupuncture, and email is Dr. Kho, DRKHO, at alohaveterinaryacupuncture.com.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening to the Dr. Bros. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or anywhere you listen to your podcast. We will love you forever. It would also help us out if you could share this episode with others who may be interested in today's topic. You can also tell us what you want to hear. You can drop suggestions in the comments or shoot us an email at thedoctorbros.com or DM us at thedoctorbros on Instagram. You can find me personally on Instagram at Dr. Adam DVM. That's DRADAM DVM.
And this is Chris, and you can reach me on Instagram at dr.chrishernandez. That's dr.chrishernandez.
And this is Jeff. You can find me on TikTok or Instagram at DermDrJeff, DermDogtorJeff.